Evening, everybody, and welcome to Just a Little Bit. I will be your DM for tonight. I'm Evan, and I will be taking you into the world of Obra along with a party of adventurers made up of everyone you see all around me. We're going to be diving in tonight to a continuing campaign that we have going on. If you have any questions or want to learn a little bit more about the world, take a look at our Twitter that's linked down below. Otherwise, we're going to be jumping right in tonight. As a recap for everybody, the party has all been working in the city of Truehome under the auspice of their patron, Marge, a very legitimate businesswoman, looking into several people who had gone missing in the underserved neighborhood of the flooded plains. Unfortunately, they were only able to recover a few of those people, but either way, Marge has asked them to join her on a very, very important night as she received the civic laurels, marking her as an entrepreneur and philanthropist who has made Truehome a truly thriving spot of civilization. Unfortunately, the party was crashed not too long into it by a number of demonic party crashers who caused chaos and havoc in the surrounding streets. So as we zoom in on tonight's adventure, let me just click over here. Fires crackle in the distance, casting lurid shadows over the once lively market square. In the distance, the sound of crashes and screams and the clash of arms can still be heard, kind of carrying over what was once the quiet and lively night air. Several magical lights still bobble and sway, casting a strange lighting on the marketplace, where once it was lively and festive, now it feels sort of grim and macabre to see those glowing lights bounce and circle around the square. In particular, as you zero in, you see the dejected form of a Stalsered crouched over the remains of his dolls, collecting them and trying to return them to his cart as Twiddlemop, the Stalsered doll maker, cries over their broken and damaged friends. The bodies of demons lay not far away, slowly dissolving into a thick black dust with little tiny bits of embers in them as they just sort of settle in their bodies, decay at an exponentially increased rate. Meanwhile, as the recently defeated Bula Zhao's body shatters into a million flakes of dust, a large white icon crashes to the ground and tumbles several feet, largely ignored by the party as Twiddlemop rushes to the cart to see if any of their dolls can be salvaged. Luckily for them, many of their dolls are still in good shape, although several are missing. Truly a tragic loss.
And someone will pay.
And someone will pay. And that finds the party at what was once Large Marge's party, and now instead is a scene of chaos and carnage as demons fled the streets of Truehome.
What
would you like to do?
I would like to ignore Twiddlemop screaming and crying and go look at the icon that came out of the demon.
Absolutely. So you head over to where the Bula Zhao fell, and it takes you a moment because you saw it crash down, but then the ashes sort of fell after it. You have to take a moment, lean down, and you use your sword to sort of push some of the ashes to the side left over from its body. And you do indeed see, lying on the ground amidst the ashes, sort of almost nestled gently within them, is a thick square of stone, probably about this big, that is engraved on the side that's facing you with the delicate figure of a woman. It almost looks as though she's leaning against a pillar that's carved on the other part of the icon, and she is entirely, completely alabaster, clothes, everything except for a single pink flower that sits in her hair, as though she's just recently tucked it behind her ear. The expression is sort of thoughtful and staring off into space, and seems out of place as far as you know for something like a demon to keep on their person.
Would this pink flower happen to be an azalea?
You can give me a nature check if you'd like to find that out.
10.
10. So yeah, with the 10, I will say you've seen some azaleas before, and you specifically had them pointed out when you identified the signet ring you found in a previous adventure when you were looking at Skivitz's possessions. It's an artistic representation, but you're fairly sure that it's not an azalea.
I was going to say, I was the one who identified the ring the last time, so it doesn't look like that.
No, it's not the same setup as the one you saw before.
Okay. Still weird.
A lot of flowers going on. That's something to take note of.
Yes. So for everyone who's watching, the party just came off of a pretty big demon fight. So a couple of them took some scrapes, and in particular, Pork Roll, Calvin's Samurai Cat Automaton took a couple of dents and dings. So if you'd like to make use of your ability, you can heal Pork Roll. Does anyone else want to do some post-combat healing, or anything else that they'd like to take care of now that we're out of combat?
I did that the last time. I healed myself a little bit, and I gave Ruby and Carlisle a little bit.
Okay.
And then revived one or two. I think I gave like a point to each of the civilians that were downed.
How long has it been since we left the first skirmish? Because that's when I cast Armor of Agathis.
It's probably been at this point, I'm going to say 20, 25 minutes.
Okay, so I still got
Your armor's still up for a little while.
Twid is going to, as they're just sort of like distraughtly using Mage Hand to get things back on the cart, is going to turn to Ruby and Carlisle and say, "Okay, so Ruby and Carlisle, you take my cart back to the safety place, and we should go hunt all the demons and literally kill everyone."
Everyone or just all the demons?
All the demons.
Okay, just checking.
And I will say, Twid, you've heard a voice at the very end of our last adventure, sort of in your back of your mind, and you hear that voice again. Now, don't be hasty. Maybe everyone. Who knows?
That doesn't seem like a very good idea, because then we'd have to kill all the people we like and Marge, and I don't want to do that.
Well, maybe not Marge, and maybe not a few of the others, but how many people made fun of your cart over the years? Truehome could use a few less unsavory types.
Can everyone else hear this?
No one else can hear this. This is only in Twid's mind.
I mean, can everyone hear Twid responding?
I mean, is Twid saying it out loud?
Yeah, Twid does not usually... Twid speaks out loud most of the time, unless they're specifically using their ability.
Yeah. Flip's eyes have just been getting wider and wider until, I mean, they're just solid black, but they're just like full circles at this point, just staring at Twiddlemop like, are we gonna have to do something about them?
Thorn had put their swords away, seeing all the demons dead. Thorn's one sword is now back out.
Don't
Balin
worry
reaches
about
out
it
and grabs.
now. Workshop it. Think about it. We'll come back to it.
Okay, we'll come back to it. That seems like a good idea.
Balin grabs Thorn's arm, and it's just like, he's just working through some things right now. It's fine. I'm sure it's all fine.
You have far more faith than I do. And
I mean,
Twiddlemop,
I am
I
a
think you
cleric.
may be underestimating our capabilities just a little bit. I don't know about you, but I don't know if I have enough tricks to kill every demon in the city.
We'll definitely take a good chunk of them out. We'll do what we can, at least.
Thorn was gonna ask Ruby and Carlisle if they'd seen anything, which way they'd come, etc., etc.
Ruby shakes her head and goes, we helped a couple of civilians and some of the people who got caught in the street head into some of the buildings down the and points to like the south of where you are. Head into the buildings to the south that are a little more secure, but we stayed with the cart. We didn't have a chance to get out of here before things got crazy.
And I thank you a lot for staying with the cart. You did your job.
Will you both be able to get the cart to the, what was it, the safety place safely?
And like both of them sort of look over at Twid for a second, like they're very unclear what the safety place is. But Ruby goes, we'll take care of it. I wouldn't worry about it. The path you fought to get here from Marge's is clear now, right?
Unless something else has moved into it, it should be fine. Would
We'll
you
take
mind
the
helping
cart
these civilians
there.
along the way?
Absolutely. We'll take the civilians and the cart to the event hall. Marge can take a closer look at how things are going there.
Yeah. Thorn is going to pick up the statue and give it to Carlisle and say, "Would you hold on to this for me? It bears further investigation once this night is over."
And as you are talking about that, one of the small businesses not too far from you lets out this horrible, rending, shrieking break of wood and stone, and something just comes barreling through it, smashing through the front of the business, slamming down to the ground. As you see, it is this hulking, red-furred creature, probably about 8 foot tall, but the way it's hunched over, it could easily have stood to be much higher. Its build is like out of a gorilla, with this thick orange matted fur and this very large set of upturned tusks coming out of its mouth, but that same sloping brow of a head and like a weird mohawk of bluish hair. And you see it sort of where it pants in the air, it lets out this huge gout of steam. And it's just sort of, it looks at you and you can see that it's cut and beat up all over its body. It's got these long rents that are bleeding this like ichorish greenish red blood that doesn't really run like a liquid. Instead, it sort of just glops like jello out of its wounds, and it's and it starts to like lower its head. And as it does, you hear a voice sort of echo from the damaged building. I didn't tell you could go nowhere. And you see a large ursine form sort of leap out of the back of the building and lower what looks to be a gigantic meat cleaver and slams it into the back of the creature. And you see the creature sort of stumble as the figure pulls it loose. And for a second, from the accent, you're sort of thinking, oh, maybe it's Marge. But as you look up, you see that it is, I believe several of you would know, Antiliat, Marge's oldest son, and basically serving as one of her like business managers, and is a noted like fighter. Pulls the weapon loose from the creature's back and sort of pushes it forward, so it sort of stumbles again. What it's holding in his large bare paw is this massive, what looks to be like butcher's cleaver, but definitely done up to about, a broadsword version of a butcher's cleaver. The edges are all rough and gnarled, like it's been used over and over again in battle. There's little nicks and dents and cuts in it, and there's like this deep discoloration to the blade as he pulls it loose. And he's kind of like rolls his shoulders. You can see he's in this large mismatched armor that looks like he probably had to use several different plate mail armors to make it broad enough for him. So where Marge is very tall but fairly lean for a Valanin, her son Antilia is massive all the way down. So his ursine head is just gigantic, but where it would meet the more human body, still just massive cords of muscle underneath it all. And so he just kind of clanks into view. The creature sort of falls to the ground, and you see him reel back and just slam the cleaver down into its head and pulls it loose, and you see the creature just sort of fall to the ground and dissipate to ash. And as it does, you see clunk, another white stone icon falls to the ground from within the ash.
Have they all been doing that? I'm gonna ask.
And you see he kind of like he turns and lifts the cleaver like he's about to attack, and his eyes have this like burning like battle rage in them for a second that sort of clears as Twiddlemop reaches up to wave. Twiddlemop, is that you? What the hell are you doing here?
I had to get my cart.
I guess that makes sense. Ma was doing her big exhibition tonight, so she probably had to show off all your dolls.
And she did. And Ruby and Carlisle did a great job keeping them safe until we had to come save them. Oh, Carlisle, remember, when you take them back, you gotta sing them the lullaby you've heard me singing before, because they've had a rough day.
I ain't pointing no fingers, Twid, but like, you ain't responsible for any of this demon business, right?
Me? No.
I had the same thought at first. It does not believe so. I believe it is the work of the necromancer your mother once drove from the city.
I always told her she should make sure he was dead. He ain't dead until you see no bodies.
It seems he's come back with a vengeance. Are you quite all right, Antiliac?
Oh yeah, I'm just fine. We just got back to town. I got a lot to tell my ma and a couple of the other people around town. Lord Aki had some problems outside when we were on a expedition. And you see he leans down and there is the smashed remains of what was probably like a stall with the large cloth overhang. He picks up the cloth overhang and you can see that his hands are still in his ursine form, so they're these large giant bear paws. He picks them up and he wipes the blade of his cleaver off. And as he reaches back, he sort of puts it behind and you hear like as though like it is adhered through magnetic to the back of the armor. And then he takes it and he looks down at his hands, and his hands are bloody, and his muzzle is actually also a little bit bloody with that same. And he very gently like pats his muzzle clean and then drops it. But do you know where my ma is? I gotta check in. I assume that the demon's an unexpected turn of events.
Just a little bit. She ran the other direction from us after some other demons when the invasion first began.
We haven't
That
seen
sounds
her in
like
a
her
little
ma.
while.
Nah, if there's trouble, she's at the center of it, and that's all right. She can handle herself. She's tough.
We're just thinking about going to find her and see if we could offer any help. Not that she needs it, but just to help out a little bit.
Of course. Well, like I said, ain't nothing back this way. And he points back through the demolished building. And if you look through it, you can kind of see that there's another building behind it that also looks like something is basically just slammed through out into another street. Through the hole, you can see that some of the fire you're seeing in the distance is basically on some businesses that were like at the very far end. And you can see as he's shaking himself loose, a couple of little bits of rock come like ping, 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 falling out of the folds of his armor.
Yeah, clearly you definitely took care of that way. Good job.
Yeah, we should probably go back to where's she throwing her fancy little shindig at? We should start there because the men I came back with me from Aki, I had them start taking care of the demons. They spread out.
Wonderful. It
Well-
was back this way. The path should be clear unless something's moved into it.
Makes sense. And he reaches down and you see with the paw, he just scoops up the stone icon, again about this big, that had fallen from the creature that he destroyed. And as he does, he underhand like softball pitches it to Calvin. He's like, "Here, Calvin, take a look at this. I know you like weird magic shit. I pulled about 8 of these out of demons I killed earlier." And yeah, and I'll say a minute later, it smashes into one of the one of the displays behind you, and you have to kind of like dig it and pull it loose from the display because it's a heavy piece of stone. And you're actually, as you pick it up and you see the damage it did, you're thinking it was probably for the best that you missed it. I will say, as you look at it, it's very similar to the other one you saw. This one is also a figure of a carved humanoid, but it's a man instead. And the man is holding a flower in his hands as though he's like giving it to somebody. And it is, again, the only thing that's colored on the whole statue is the pink flower in his hand. Well, what are you trying to figure out? Sure, you can roll a knowledge arcana check. You sort of think for a minute and try to remember if there's anything significant you can think of around a pink flower with like magic and arcana. Nothing comes to mind though. Like flowers are used a lot in like nature magic, and obviously druids have a number of them that they use, but like you're not familiar with particularly a pink flower being like especially symbolic.
And we still don't know what kind of flower, right? We just know it's not
Nope.
in this area.
from the roll that Thorn had made, yes.
Valen would like to make a nature roll. Maybe my natural plantness will help with this.
Yeah, so if you want to roll a nature check while you're looking it over.
I got a 17.
17, you do a little bit better. You realize after a moment that whoever did the sculpture, it is very good. Like, it's very accurate and naturalistic. In particular, the two sculptures you have, it looks to be a pink dahlia. And the one in the hair and the one in the hands is the exact same flower.
I peek over Calvin's shoulder. I'm like, oh, it's a pink dahlia. Why didn't you just say that?
And I will say that as far as you know, there isn't any particular mystical or magical quality that you know from like a natural pink dahlia.
Would I know if they're like native to the area, or would it be like, oh, this is not from around here?
I'll say with the nature check, you know that they're a little bit more. The temperature, the climate here isn't exactly perfect for them. They're found mostly in mountainous regions. This particular variety,
Like Rion?
like Rion, yeah.
Well, I guess if we should go try to find Large Marge back at the party.
Yes, the investigation can wait until after combat is over.
Yeah, don't
Perhaps
worry
we
about
should
that too much. I have a lot of, a couple of the soldiers that were with me kind of milling about. And if Ma's in the fight, you got no problems for very long. She got the guard here with her, right? The family god?
She took a few of them with her when she left. The rest fanned out as well to handle the onslaught.
Why don't we get out of here before the city god shows up? They're going to have a lot of questions. I don't feel like I got a lot of room for god questions right now.
Understandable.
If I see any more of
Good
them, I
plan.
am shooting them, though.
Understandable.
The demons.
That would be wise. Which that is an important distinction, Twiddlemop.
The demons!
Just checking, you did say something about killing everyone, like, more than once. And then you did that talking to yourself thing you do sometimes, and I'm still haven't put my sword away.
Did I? I don't know what they're talking about.
Don't worry about it. He's a good kid. Although be careful around your extra metalware. One of my favorite sets of knives went missing, and I found out later Twiddlemop was using them to make themselves a new pair of eyebrows. I'd have been more mad, but they were really good eyebrows.
Twiddlemop is gonna brush their eyebrows a little bit above their like cogwheel eyes.
All right, well, this ain't no hayride. Let's get out of here. And I will say Antiliot and the other NPCs that are with you all begin to head back towards where the event was. Antiliot leans over and helps push the cart, which is pretty easy for him. He doesn't have to put a ton of weight into it before it just starts rolling in front of you. And I will say, just for flavor, because the only person amongst you who's probably seen it is Twid. You would know that the cleaver on his back is his signature weapon, and it is named Hunger.
What's the name again? Sorry.
Hunger.
I'm here for it.
Hunger.
Mm-hmm.
Do a little bit. Maybe not as good as you, but I could probably like backwards. Oh, I would really appreciate that, Calvin. I mean, you did help put me back together, so I guess you could help put the dolls back together too.
Okay, yeah. With the help, between the two of you, I would say if you do some work, you feel like most of the dolls that you had on your cart are salvageable. There's still a couple missing from your roster because like you have a list that you keep, like you reach inside and pull out a little clipboard, and you're like, missing, missing, missing. And but most of them are now salvageable.
Thank you, Calvin.
As we're walking, Flip is gonna kind of, if he can, sidle up to Ruby and just be like, "So that was some interesting magic you were throwing around in combat earlier. What's your story?"
And she turns to look at you and she goes, "Was it? Was it interesting?"
I find a lot of things interesting, and I have to say it was rather unusual.
I mean, you know, you don't meet a sorcerer every day, I guess.
I guess I don't.
But that was nothing. That was just a few minor tricks I've picked up over the years. You know, it's a little natural talent. I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Oh, not worried. Just, I like to collect interesting tidbits. Stories, mostly. That's all.
Oh, right. Well, I mean, there's not much to say. Grew up, discovered I had a little natural magic, put it to good use working for Marge. You know, not an unusual story. I mean, it's not just different from your friend Twiddlemop.
Well, I wouldn't call them not unusual. But,
That's fair, I suppose. They do stand out a little bit, don't they, in the crowd?
just a little bit. But I'll pull out, Flip carries some sort of notebook, scrap paper, and just kind of jots down a couple notes. And just, well, it's always lovely to chat, and thanks for humoring me, Ruby.
Anytime, Flip. I appreciate the interest.
Give her a wink.
She gives you just a little bit of like a over-the-shoulder hair toss.
Yeah. Give her a wink. Skip away.
Nice. So I'll say it doesn't take you very long to get back to the event hall. It's about another 20 minutes later, so for the purposes of your Hour of Agathis twin, you would know. You've probably at the 40-45 minute mark at this point. Returning to the event hall, you find that most of the people who you saw at the party are still there, and there's a number of Marge's personal guard, like her retinue that follows her around as a noble, have basically sealed off that block. And with them, you see that there are a number of soldiers in long, dark green and brown lacquered armor that is very reminiscent of what you would know to be more like the samurai style of armor. Each of them with a clay mask in the shape of an Oni's face on them, sort of affixed to the front of the armor plate. And I would say that since most of you are locals, you would recognize these as member of the Oni Guard. They are a detachment of the military. And there aren't as many of them, but there are definitely like a good dozen scattered around the block helping Marge's guards secure the area. The building itself seems to be sealed off, but there's a number of civilians all in that street around the building.
Just to clarify, the Oni Guard, they're part of like the Truehome military, so they're loyal to the prince.
They are part of the military that reports to him. In particular, they're the part that is led by his sister, Princess Tomoe. So they're kind of the elite. They're very much like the Army Ranger of Truehome.
Very cool. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And as you approach, Antiliot kind of ahead of you, kind of clumping through them, you see one of the Oni that are there give Antiliot a quick like bow, and then start to step forward, but he like waves them away.
Attilia waves the guard away.
Yeah, the member of the Oni Guard that starts to step forward after giving him a bow, he sort of gives him a quick like, you can stay where you are.
How much do we know about Antiliot? Like, is he an Oni guard, or...?
I will say that as far as you know, give me a general wisdom check. Because I will
Thanks
say
for
you
that,
spent
too.
time around Marge, but this is sort of going to be like a in the past. How much have you paid attention to like the idle stuff happening around Marge?
17?
17. So actually, you paid decent enough attention to know that Antiliot did have a past working in the military. As a son of a noble woman, he has done like time serving in the military and is noted for being like an accomplished fighter. You don't know that he was an actively part of the Truehome military at this point. And I'll say Twid, as a member of Marge's family, kind of adopted, you would know the same.
Another important question. Would I know if my body sticks to that spot on his back that the cleaver sticks to?
I'm gonna say because it's you, you would know that yes, your body does stick to the same spot that his cleaver does.
As we get to that point, Twit is just gonna go up or turn up to him and say, "Can I get a ride?"
Yeah, sure, kid, why not? And he'll reach down, pick you up, and sort of deposits you like you're getting like a piggyback ride, but at the last second, it's like click, and you're basically adhere to the back of the armor. And I'll say from there, you can see that there is a like harness that he wears, sort of fused into the armor, that on the back has what looks to be like a long, thin piece of metal that everything attaches to, and you feel like a magnetic force like click you into place.
Twid will look over at him and say, "Don't worry, if anything comes at us, I'll just blast them from up here."
Good idea, kid. I ain't too worried though.
It could be there could be some military applications for that setup you two have going on there. Just an idea.
I mean, it may have won us a few shoulder chicken matches.
Oh yeah, that sounds about right.
Also, I'm tall
So,
now.
Are these only friends of yours, Antilia?
We got an understanding. We all right. Don't worry about them. They'll make sure everything stays real secure.
Very well.
Have they seen signs of your mother?
And he, as you're saying that, he sort of looks over to one of the guards, who is part of Marge's personal guard, and like waves him over. You ain't seen my ma, have you? And after a minute, the guard pulls off the helmet to reveal that it is a wood elf, actually, which you don't see very often in Truehome, but essentially one of the Ashahai that has essentially fallen from grace and become a wood elf instead by embracing nature magic. Lord, oh wow, just had a total thing there for a minute. Lord Antiliot, yes, your mother is inside.
Well, I'd love to go see how Large Marge is doing if we can. I mean, it seems like this was very much a targeted attack on her. I know the demon we fought seemed to specifically relish destroying Twid's cart.
Yeah, you were saying she thinks it's one of the magic users she took care of a few years ago.
Yes, we've been meaning to follow up on that, but the party got in our way.
Understandable. My mother, she doesn't take kindly to people preying on those with less fortunes than them. A couple years ago, she had a run-in with a I don't want to call him a crime boss, but you know, like, he had a criminal element to him. Known to summon demons. He went by a nickname, the Sculptor. Who always liked to leave behind all kinds of knickknacks and stuff as his calling card. She was pretty sure he was dead, though. She took apart his operation a couple years ago. Ain't no one heard from him for, I don't know, maybe like 10 years.
Evidently not. Or we have a copycat on our hands.
Like I said, it ain't dead unless you see a body. And even then, wizards
It's
are real
reversible.
fucking tricky.
Thorn is
Right.
gonna walk inside the building to go see Marge.
Yeah, so like walking into the building, you see a lot of the guests that you saw previously are still milling about. In particular, you see that Lady Brunera and Lord Meadowsweet are still there, sort of holding court as well. Everyone's sort of doing that thing where, like, in the middle of a disaster, they all sort of huddle into groups, and people are like, "Ooh, it's really cold in here," while we're talking about like crazy shit that's happening outside. And so the vibe is very much changed from party to like witnesses to a mini disaster in town.
So I assume
Amongst them,
Thorn
you can
walking
see
in
that a number of Marge's guards are there as well.
Because I assume Thorn walking in covered in ash and blood and demon bits. Sparks a bit
Yeah,
of a...
it definitely, like, you get that ripple of effect where like people start to mumble and like look back at you and like, oh, do you see what's going on over there? And you definitely a couple minutes later realize that you've caught up the attention of a number of people in the party, none the least of which because Twid is now riding in a fairy wings and a princess hat on the back of a giant Paladin bear warrior.
I forgot you were wearing that until right now.
Yeah, so just revisit that mental image of Twid in a skirt, a princess hat, and fairy wings, riding on the back of Antiliot, who is essentially a giant bear warrior.
I also have this vision though, because Twid is so much smaller that it just looks like he has until he just has wings coming off the side of his head and a princess hat behind him.
I mean, you know, is it the strangest thing you've seen all day? And as a reference for what Twiddlemop looks like right now,
I'm still not okay.
serving you fashion looks. He brings it to you every gala. Or they bring it to you every gala.
Do we
Alright.
still see the two owlmare that Marge pointed out to Thorn? Are they still at the party?
You mean Lady Brunera and Lord Meadowsweet?
Yes.
Yes. So you do still indeed see them. They're still chatting with some people off to one side as well. Some of the other nobles from town. Some people that you're familiar with being like merchants and nobles in the city. And I will say, and in the distance, you can see that someone's pulled together several of the smaller tables, and Marge is there. Her coat's still around her, but at some point she's found armor that she's wearing underneath, like leather armor that's sort of form-fitting. And she's got a knife that you see her slam down on one of the maps that's like, spread out on the table. And you can see her angrily pointing to several places on the map. Her hands have turned into the larger bear paw versions. So every time she taps down, you can kind of see her nails sink into the table ever so slightly.
Thorn's gonna go walk over to her and then do that Ashahai bow thing where I assume they like sort of tuck their swords blades down and bow over them.
Thorn, I'm glad to see you looking okay.
Same goes for you. We've returned with family.
And she stops and looks at Antiliot for a second, and you see him kind of give her like a little like, "Hey, what's up?" And she's like, "I thought you were at the front. What the hell are you doing here?" And he's like, "We have something to discuss, but maybe we can wait until later, if you know what I'm saying." And he like looks around the room a little bit. Maybe we want to talk about this in private. And you see she kind of looks at him for a second, and then she looks over at the guard, and she goes, "Hey, I already told you I had some plans for you. How about you go take care of what we talked about before? Ain't nobody gonna secure my businesses for me." And she points back to the business. She goes, "You go to this one. You go to this neighborhood. You go find out whether or not they're still taking care of everything over there. And I want any of these that you find." And she puts one of the statues down that looks very similar to the one that you have. I want any of these brought back to me.
We have quite a few as well.
I ain't surprised. I'm glad you're okay. And then she looks up at Twid. "You caught okay, kid?"
The evil goat man tried destroying it, but I got him.
"Yeah, you did." That's what I like to hear.
She's so proud.
She is. She has a little glow. And after they leave, you're sort of alone for a moment, and you see Marge sort of looks left to right around the room, and you do have a bit of like a bubble of space around you. And as she's looking back and forth, you see her hand sort of shifts back to the normal humanoid version. You can see all of her rings sort of pop back into appearance. And there's one with a light blue stone sort of right on her ring finger that starts to glow with a faint hum. And as it does, you feel like this, like a pop of air pressure, like your ears pop for a second, and then everything sort of about 5 feet away from you becomes hazy and indistinct. And she looks over to Antiliot. And Antiliot leans forward. Yes, I gotta admit, the demons ain't the only problem we got right now. Aki and I have been hearing some rumors that there's some people been trading information to both sides of the fight, trying to make the Civil War a little more complicated. Been working with Colm. So we were looking into it. We took some of our soldiers from one of these special divisions out to have a little look around, reconnoiter. And someone's opened a portal not too far from town. They were trying to bring some of Colm's army through. My guess is if you got demons here, it's a distraction. They're trying to keep the city guard busy so they can't take care of no problems. We split up. Aki went to take care of the portal. It should be closed by now. But this ain't no amateur hour. This is some real deal shit. It looks like Colm wants to get serious about this war and try to take Truehome without too much problems.
Ugh, more silly wars.
And as Antiliot says that, he reaches into his armor and he pours out what is a couple more of the statues. He goes, I ain't so surprised someone's dug up one of your old enemies to cause trouble. I've been hearing a lot of strange stuff's been happening around town in general. The city guard's been busy the last few weeks with all kinds of reports and missing peoples, dangers out in the woods. It seems like they were trying to stretch them thin before they attacked.
Yes, I have to wonder if this portal is connected to our purple friend in the sewers.
And Antiliot turns to you. What do you mean you got a purple friend in the sewers?
Your mother sent us to look into the missing people in the floodplains. And while there, we found a rat person, flying cloaks, and a ring, which through the use of some divination magics, I believe, we saw a purple-scaled humanoid giving orders to said rat folk to abduct people to feed someone or something they had left in the sewers.
That old ring don't look nothing like this, does it? And until it reaches into a small pouch in his armor and drops down about 3 rings that sort of clatter onto the table and sort of roll around. And as they come to a stop, they do indeed, one of them facing you reveals the same motif of an azalea across it.
It's the same ring. The rat folk in question had this symbol branded into his shoulder.
So did a few, let's say, a few enterprising merchants I took care of.
So they are connected. Marge, speaking of, your party guest gave me a very bad feeling.
And give me a second.
Sorry, Evan, I'm making you have conversations with yourself.
A lot of NPC conversations.
A lot of NPCs. I did this to myself. You got a bad read from the Fancy Pantses before?
The woman, I don't know. Mare can be tricky to read. The Lord is slime. Not to mention, I don't know much about this prophetess, but what I do know, I do not like.
Yeah, I ain't got no time for no woman who thinks she's got superpowers from some god that ain't nobody heard about before. You know what that sounds like? Awful suspicious.
Anyone who has the poor sense to attempt to buy an Ashahai's blade off of them is not someone you want to do business with.
Not at all. I pay my dues to the church, I pay my taxes, I ain't want no trouble. And this woman represents both.
It's really just a compliment, Thorn. I mean, my people does have a tendency to value shiny things.
Well, it was the Lord who tried to buy him, not her.
Yeah, and you would know that the Lord was from Rion.
Yeah, he's human.
It's almost as if you wanted to buy it knowing something bad was about to happen.
No, I mean you've been with me a while. Rhyme ice artifacts are difficult to come by because we only give them up when we're dead, and we tend to take most things with us.
And so, like, Antilia and Large Marge sort of, they share a long look for a moment, and Marge sort of leans back, folds her arms, and you can see they've gone back to the humanoid hands. And while she's wearing armor, her coat is still like in perfect. Just looks perfect, and she pulls a little bit closer around herself as she seems to think for a second. We don't want to tip our hands right now, but it sounds like there's an awful good reason to be suspicious of our friends from afar, if you know what I mean.
Agreed. We don't want to let them know before we can puzzle out their plans, but it seems like Rion is trying to get in the middle of things.
Now, you said you had a talk with them. Did they offer you a job?
They offered several. Their most ideal situation was for us to leave. When I said that was not on the table, they mentioned they had a few jobs in and around the city.
Might not be a bad idea if you got a little bit closer to them, worked up a little bit of that trust, you know what I'm saying?
Flip is gonna do a hair toss and be like, I don't think that's gonna be a problem.
And
I'm sure it ain't.
They haven't even met me yet.
They're gonna love you, kid.
Yeah. I'm thinking a little more one-on-one interrogation might be in order here, Twid, but we'll keep you for intimidation backup. We'll go with that, intimidation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And she, as she's saying that, she sort of turns to Calvin and she pushes several of the statues across towards you, like the icons. What do you think? You know, a lot more of that, magical acumen. You think there's anything suspicious about these statues? Anything I should be worried about?
Can I make another Arcana check, possibly?
Yes, you can make another Arcana check.
While Calvin's doing that, I'm going to burn a Divine Sense to see if they give off anything.
Absolutely.
Do that?
What? Before Calvin makes his roll, I'm gonna go ahead and Flip's gonna pull out a Taroka card and have Calvin touch it and cast Enhance Ability for Arcana is Intelligence.
Yep. So you now have advantage on ability checks using intelligence. So that would include this.
It is much better.
All right. So
It's a 23 Arcana check.
23 Arcana. So I will say with your Divine Sense first, Thorn, you take a moment to open yourself to the cooling presence of the Frost Maiden, and you can kind of feel this wash of like clean mountain air as it blows across the snow, flow through essentially like your soul and your soul. And as it does, it sort of makes everything else so much clearer because you are sort of like purified. As it happens, you feel the resonance from the statues. Each one on its own has the faintest hint of demonic energy, almost like there's like almost like the spell of brimstone and like snow kind of left black and dark by some kind of taint. It seems to be fading though. And I will say with the 23, Calvin, you take a moment to examine them and think about like what they could be used for. And you know that a lot of people who summon demons sort of the easy way would use spells that have very short capacity. Some of the people who summon demons that they want to stay around longer need to do something to anchor the spell. So there's a very good chance someone used these as sort of like the anchor for their spell casting.
So Calvin will like take a look at them all again and do the whole like fix his glasses, think for a minute. So it's kind of like, you know, they cast the spell into the stone instead of making the demon just show up and then like disappear after a minute, because that can be really complicated.
Magic within objects, that's kind of your area of expertise. Is there any way we can use this knowledge to like take them out without having to beat them to a pulp?
Well, like the rocks are inside of them, So
Yeah.
so no.
I guess we just have to beat him out.
And the
I will say that
mean,
the 23, I'll give you the hint that if you could disrupt the magic, like a dispel, for example, you get the feeling like you could purposely dispel the anchor, and it would be the same thing as destroying them. I know that none of you currently have access to dispel magic, but like anti-magic, dispel magic, things like that would most likely break the anchor and allow you to destroy them.
So like if Valen were like 3 levels higher, we could maybe do something.
Oh my god, does that mean I'm being leveled up?
Well, we all drop down a level and donate it to you.
Yeah, we all give up our next level, and then
Everyone
Valen is
gives
just
up the
level
next
8.
level for Valen.
Twit is gonna hold up Lucretia and point it towards one of the little things and go, "Can I disrupt it like this?"
That's
I mean,
not
you know that if
quite
you could
what
destroy
happened.
the statues themselves, it would probably have a similar effect, but they're usually inside the body of a demon.
So what we do, we feed Twid to the demon, and then from the inside out, Twid destroys the statue.
Wouldn't that just make the demon more powerful by absorbing more demon energy?
I don't
demons-
think that's how it works.
Do demons like eating metal?
Also, pointedly, I have Divine Sense up. Does Twid register as Celestial Fiend or Undead?
No.
Interesting.
I assume that you've cast that before just to be sure, and you know each time you're like,
I like to check every
Suspicious.
once in a while just to just do a top up.
yeah. As far as you know, Twid is never in your experience working with them detected as a demon. Or a fae or outsider.
Yet.
Yet. Any other questions or anything else you'd like to examine?
I think that's it for the icons.
So is our course of action to make friends with our guests, or should we turn more towards the monster in the sewers and the necromancer?
Well, I mean, I vote for making friends, but I understand the other issues are quite pressing as well. I think we can try to multitask, but it would be good to prioritize one.
Or do we go back after that very suspicious alchemist?
That question was aimed more at Marge, and that alchemist was not suspicious, Twiddlemop.
Yes, he was.
Twid, I've been meaning to mention you're beginning to catch attention. You may wish to stop visiting that alchemist for a while.
But it's to protect Marge.
I don't think Marge is in danger from a chemist, or even worse, a clerk at a chemist. Besides, the guard may bring you in soon.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. There's a lot of guard talk going on around here.
You didn't hear it
My
from
little
me,
twiddle
but
mop ain't being brought in by no gods.
you didn't hear it from me, but there's been some rumors.
This alchemist been giving you some problems?
That was the shop that those globby things that attacked you before came from. And we don't have any other leads, so it must be them.
We've established, Twiddlemop, the package was intercepted.
Why don't I send Carlisle over to have a little conversation with them, just to be on the safe side?
Okay.
It will probably get them to stop calling the guard, at least.
I can almost guarantee it. Carlisle has a real persuasive air about him.
Oh, he does.
All
Post
right.
also read.
Well,
My opinion.
what do you think, Marge?
My opinion, I'm gonna have my network, and I assume Antiliot. And she looks over at her son, and he kind of like gives a little like maybe shrug. Antiliot's gonna ask around and see if a few people don't know nothing about what's been going on. That more or less covers what's going on with the sculptor. If he's back, I'm gonna put him back in the ground, and I'll make sure he stays there this time. You should go make friendly with our fancy pants friends from across the ways. It seems awful suspicious that someone opens a portal to our part of town and causes a lot of trouble around the same time they show up and start building that fancy new temple of theirs. I ain't got no problem with the gods. As you know, I pay all my tithes. I go every holy day. But
Of course.
I also
They,
know that they tend
definitely-
to meddle.
This feels different. I don't know, Marge. They do give off a bit of a cultish vibe, if I may be frank.
I agree with you. I don't like it. It's a little suspicious. I'll say they buy up an awful lot of manufacturing goods, and they brought the services of a lot of local builders and masons in order to start building some of their weird constructions they've been making. They've been popping up all over some of the lower districts.
Yeah, that's very suspicious. Well,
I don't
you know
know
me,
about
Marge. Monuments. Yeah, I don't like the sound of that.
Yeah, I personally don't trust anyone who follows the prophetess. She's bad news.
Normally, I make a habit of not mixing jobs, but I'll see if I can't whisper in a few ears.
I'd appreciate that. But yeah, I think now's the perfect time. I might have let it circulate around the party a little bit that y'all have been real helpful in taking care of all these demons and monsters and you some real accomplished adventurers. Now might be the perfect time to let them know that you're interested in picking up a little side work.
While I'm still covered in demon blood, smart.
Exactly. Ain't nobody who minds seeing a little proof.
I think we should. I don't think we'll have any trouble piquing their interest anymore. They definitely seem interested to start with, and I think this will clinch it.
Absolutely. And here's a little something special for you. Don't say I don't appreciate all the hard work you did. I know you didn't have to get out there and start dusting it up with no demons. That wasn't why I had you here tonight. And she slams a not small bag of gold down on the table, and it has that definite distinctive like clank as it hits the table, and she pushes it across towards you. Why don't you go buy yourself something special? And then she looks at you, Flippin, and she's like, "Don't spend it all in one place, and maybe buy a few shirts that actually don't have so many holes in them." It's almost
Marge,
winter time
how-
here.
He has
How
to
will I
wear
survive?
shirts for them to have holes in them.
Don't I know it?
I'm wearing this armor, and it's too constricting.
It also kept you alive. By the way,
Oh,
Marge,
I
we
also
owe
had-
one of your
I also
merchants
had
some
this
armor.
Don't worry about it. I'll take care.
Just gonna say, if you had let me wear armor to the party in the first place, this would not have happened.
That's a correlation,
I mean,
not a
I-
causation.
Marge is not standing
Oh,
for
she
your
means the
logical
demons.
fallacies.
No,
Yeah.
I meant like I would not have had to steal armor had I already been wearing armor.
Oh, well. She kind of gives a shrug. She's like, but let me know if they give you anything, any interesting information.
Of course, don't I always?
Twit is
Yeah.
gonna tap Antiliet and be like, can I get down now?
And Tilliet will reach back with one big bear paw and sort of like, after a second, pull you loose and set you back down.
Thank you.
Let's go set some bait, shall we? And Thorn's gonna hold their arm out for Valen.
I will put my arm in while also like with my other arm tucking my symbol for Velasta like away so it's not as visible on purpose.
And I'm assuming the party would like to go over to Lord Meadowsweet and Lady Brunera, or Privateer Brunera.
I mean, I'm going. I'm assuming everyone else is
Okay.
coming.
I think I'm being
As you
dragged along.
step away, you see Marge sort of tap her finger against the ring, and the air around you settles, and you feel again like this, almost like this rush of fresh air, sort of when you open a door in a room that's a little too heated, as whatever obfuscation was around you fades, and the fresh air sleeps back in.
As we walk over, Flip's gonna be like, I think I know the right bait for this hook.
How much gold did Marge
And
give us?
Aim for Meadowsweet.
Why did I have a feeling you were going to ask how much gold you got? There is 1,200 gold pieces inside of the pouch.
Okay.
Do we want to divvy it or party?
I was gonna let
How about-
Calvin pick
how about-
it up anyway.
We'll split it 6 ways, including the party. So 200 gold each.
Oh, right, there's only
Sounds
5
good.
of us. I was counting Evan.
Evan doesn't count.
I
He's
mean,
not
you
real.
can give me gold if you want.
It's okay. I was counting pork rolls, so
That's
Pork
true.
roll and Wawa both get cuts. I don't understand.
Pork Roll and Wawa are in charge of the party fund.
so 200.
Yeah, everybody take 200, and I'll put 200 into the party funds.
I need a cut of this gold. You destroyed a lot of my demons. It isn't cheap finding good help these days.
You shouldn't have given us so many demons.
Fair.
Or you
That's
should have made those demons better. They were very easy to kill.
I was gonna say, to be fair, if you don't want the demons to die, they shouldn't have attacked Twit's cart.
I know, but it was so satisfying.
I still say we should have checked those alleys for demons. They could have been anywhere. We could have taken them. We could have made a more thorough search.
That's what the guard's for.
I'm joking.
We took care of the big one.
You're approaching the group of Lady Lord Meadowsweet and Privateer Brunera, and they're like hangers-ons.
Yep, Thorn's gonna walk up, still covered in like their own blood, some demon ash, other stuff we don't know where it came from.
So as you approach, you realize that it's still Marge's party, so there's still several waiters sort of around the room handing out drinks, and as you walk up, you see that Lord Meadowsweet has a martini in hand, essentially. Martini glass with a like pale pinkish liquid inside. And he's like, "Ah, hail the conquering heroes, you return."
Yes, we had to rush out and slay those awful demons to keep you all safe. As
I
sidled up
heard.
to it.
What impossible brutes. I'm so impressed. And he definitely gives you like a long, like, up and down as you sidle up. And that armor, it's so rakish.
Oh, this. Just something I picked up. It completely ruined my party look. I was so sad. At least these
It
boots
is a
are still
shame.
looking good.
But it does give you a certain dangerous air, and I appreciate that.
Valen, Thorn looks at you.
Oh,
both
you
nod.
like a little bit of danger.
Don't we all?
I feel like Valen and Thorn, we both look at each other and kind of are like, making fun, like mouthing along, like we're pretending like we're flipping the Lord, like, oh.
Thorn is just rolling their eyes, real obviously. Like, oh, this again.
And of course, forgive me. All of you, please. Could I get you anything? You must be so tired after that fight. Slaying demons, it's truly why adventurers are so wonderful to have around.
I have to be honest, it's a bit of an adrenaline rush more than anything. I have to say I'm rather worked up right now. I'm just giving him total high five.
Oh. Perhaps we have to find a way to help you calm down later. Deal with some of that adrenaline running through your veins.
I'm clenching your arm so tight, Thorn, because I'm trying not to laugh out loud. I'm like, keep it together, keep it together, keep it together.
I am very purposefully ignoring all of you because this is work right now, okay? Not enjoying
I'm gonna
this
give you this look, Daddy's
whatsoever.
working.
This is for the. I'm getting
Of
shit
course
done,
it is.
okay?
Sure, totally. You're so giving.
It's just all for the party, really.
I'm pretty sure Flip is taking, not giving.
Yeah, not sure in this instance. Haven't figured that one out yet.
Either way, it's charity work.
Calvin is gonna hear Twid's voice just like tingling in his mind, and it's Twid's voice going, What is happening right now?"
I'll explain it to you when you're older.
Twid didn't say that out loud. Twid said it only into Calvin's head.
Calvin's gonna grab one of his little tinkering devices out, mess around with it for a little bit, and then just slide it into your hand. And if you look at it, it just displays the message, "I have no idea, save me."
Yes, as you said, it's been a rather long evening for most of us, some longer still. And I'm anxious to get to bed, but I was hoping we could hear more about those jobs within the city that you had mentioned. I hope
But of
this
course.
is proof enough of our capabilities.
Oh, I assure you, I have no doubt about your capabilities. Both the capabilities you have while adventuring and for other ventures.
Please tell
And
me.
he gives
Flip,
like a
flip,
flip.
flip,
Flip-
flip.
Okay. I was gonna say, if you
Oh,
looked
yeah,
at Thorn when that happened, Thorn would not be liable for what happened next.
You get the feeling like he's probably more interested in your swords than in you, but when it comes to Flip, I mean, he is a connoisseur of fine craftsmanship.
Well, then he should be looking at Twid.
No!
I was gonna say, are we saying that Flip's had work done?
Excuse me.
Of course, of
The
course.
spine is all natural.
Of course, I'm sure you all would enjoy some time to unwind and relax after all that exertion. Maybe, you'll look me up later if you're still interested in finding a way to burn off all that extra energy. And he does a little he does a little bit of that like play bite. But pardon me, let's get back to business. And he reaches into the folds of his and actually I will re-describe Lord Meadowsweet for the viewers because I know it's been a little while and we have a couple people here who look like they're new. Lord Meadowsweet is a human man, probably around the 5'8", 5'9" height. He is Rian, so he is that very pale, tall, kind of statuesque, very much like Nordic in appearance. But his hair, he has a very short-cut, thin beard that goes across his lower face and a little mustache and his hair is sort of like a swoop that falls to one side that are all this very pale blush of pink.
Does his drink match his hair?
It does. His drink is the same color as his hair.
That settles it.
He is dressed in this midnight black toga that like sort of just hangs along his body, and beneath it he's in a dark green form-fitting tunic and trousers, kind of conceding to the fact that it's very chilly here, but the tunic sort of, or the toga sort of falls around him, and the black is like stark, crisp, clean, not a blemish on it, and you can see that he has what looks to be like a messenger bag sort of inside of it. He reaches into the messenger bag and pulls out a card and hands it to you, Thorn. Please, if you would take my calling card, that way if you come to call upon us at a later date, interested in any of the jobs, it'll let my staff know to let you in immediately.
Of course, I think we could all use a day so to rest and repair, and then we'll be along.
Absolutely. I'm as I mentioned, I'm very impressed with the way you handled those demons. That is a rare stripe of adventurer who would go out of the way to help people on the drop of a hat. We have a few jobs, more locally, as I believe you mentioned you aren't interested in going farther afield at the moment.
That is correct. I have duties within the city I cannot abandon.
Of course, and I appreciate that. I really do. Why don't you call on us later? As I mentioned, I have a small manor house and estate very near to the temple of the architect Resurgent. If you ask for me there, they can give you directions.
Of course, we know where to find you.
And again, I apologize if my offer to purchase your swords was seen as gauche or inappropriate.
It was.
Of course, my apologies. I'm an enthusiastic collector of fine goods and magical items. But I appreciate that they are important to you. Perhaps also, do not hesitate to call on me there if there's anything else of a magical nature you'd be interested in selling. I may not be interested in anything you'd bring me, but I can certainly point you to all of the right people.
Of course, we'll be sure to call on you should the situation arise. Now, if you'll excuse me, I am quite tired. Valen,
I look
shall we
forward
leave?
to our future business endeavors, and the mutual satisfaction I'm sure we can bring each other.
Flip is
And
gonna
that is
make
also-
sure to be like, of course. He's gonna make sure to be like the last one to like leave the conversation and just give long, lingering looks and saunter away, making sure his ass looks good in the tight leather pants.
Oh, as
As you're about to saunter away, he lifts up your hand and presses another card into your hand as well. Don't hesitate to call on me anytime.
I
am
take it this is
most
where
appreciative.
I take it I can call on you at any hour at this address.
How cheeky. If I'm in attendance,
don't
I
get-
will, of course, make time for you.
Well, but of course. You don't get far in this life without putting a little bit out there.
But of course.
Shall we, Thorn?
Saunter away.
don't stay out too late, Flip.
You know.
So I assume you take the card and everything?
Indeed, yes, yes.
Alright, so looking at it, it says which more or less what you expect. It is less of like a business card and more of the calling cards of like the Edwardian sort of nobility. So it has his name on it, Lord Meadowsweet. It indicates that he's a member of the
Temple of the Architect Resurgent.
well, he's a member of that, but also of the Regalia Atelier, which Lady Brunera mentioned earlier, which is his mercantile association. I will say a particular note. You notice that they have a logo. They have sort of their like heraldry is on the card itself on the back. On the back, their heraldry is a wreath of flowers with 9 different flowers, and each one is different.
Can I make a nature check
Uh-huh.
to identify them?
Yeah, you can make a nature check to identify the flowers.
We're gonna
I
go
mean,
with Persephone this time.
That's
Natural
why I've
20.
waited to like get away from Meadowsweet before showing the card because
Oh, I
yes,
assumed
this is indeed a fact-finding mission.
I assumed that this was happening while Valen and I were at home.
You weren't there just watching because he watched you?
No, I was not watching the pre-fucking happen.
Alright, so I will say it's 8:45, so actually now this seems like a perfect time for us to take a 5-minute break, take a little breather. Thank you everyone who's been watching. I hope if any of you are enjoying it and you don't already do so, if you want to get notified about future gaming that we do, definitely give us a follow. If you're interested in the world of Obra, you can find out more at our Twitter, which you can find in our About section. It'll let you a little bit know about some of the custom things like the Valanin race of bear folk that Large Marge and her son are. We should be back in about 5 minutes. If you have any questions, definitely drop them in the chat. And thank you so much. We'll be back soon. Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for sticking with us through the break. I'll do a quick recap just for everybody to let you know that essentially the demonic incursion on Large Marge's party was ended by the heroic efforts of our adventuring party and the opportune appearance of Antiliat Ilrobaso, Large Marge's oldest son, and a member of what it seems to be member of the Oni Guard, the elite military force that helps to protect Truehome. We have since learned that while out on mission with one of the local nobles, Antiliat learned that there seems to have been a portal opened not too far from Truehome that was going to allow members of the army of the Pretender King, Colm, to come close to Truehome. And meanwhile, the demonic incursion and other issues that have been happening in the town has distracted and led to a number of the guards being unable to take action, setting Truehome up as a prime target for invasion. Luckily, the party intervened, as did Lord Aki and Antiliat, and now, under the guidance of Large Marge, they are looking into the Regalia Artilier, a number of powerful merchants and who interested in magical objects, gems, fine goods, who have recently come to the city of Truehome to suggest a new trade agreement between the governing body of Truehome and the Atelier, as well as a representative of the of Rion, one of the countries and former empires that used to rule Britannia as a border barony not too many years ago. And so now we're going to rejoin the party as they are still at the party. Flip has made some rather successful gains seducing and introducing himself to Lord Meadowsweet, one of the duo of the Regalia Atelier, interested in enjoying both his services and the services he can provide.
Flip.
and that's where we're going to rejoin the party.
Thorn got
In
a natural
exchange for
20 on my
information.
nature check.
You got a natural 20 on your identify?
I got a natural 20 on my nature check.
So luckily for you, you have been spending some extra time since you've had your Floromancer friend move in, Nettle.
I was going to say, I'm
Learning a little
assuming
bit
I've heard
about
a lot about
flowers.
flowers recently.
You've heard a lot about flowers recently. I will say that with the natural 20, one of the things that does stick out to you is one of the flowers on the wreath that is depicted on the back of the calling card is an azalea. I will say that I can list them all off for you, and I'll also send you in as a thing, so you don't have to write them all down right away. There is an azalea, which is pink, a yellow daylily, a yellow chrysanthemum, a blue forget-me-not, a pink plume of meadowsweet, which is a flower, a purple monkshood, a purple anemone, a blue delphinium, and a brown and tannish flowering tobacco. I wasn't giving you all, but you got a natural 20, so I feel obligated now.
No Dahlia, right?
No Dahlia is amongst them. But this is a calling card for the Regalia Atelier.
We're still at the party? Did we go home? I'm confused.
I assumed you walked away to another room, so I assume you're still at the party.
Yeah. Thorn will hold out the back of the card to the rest of the party. Azalea.
Well, that seems oddly convenient.
Suspicious. So far, the azalea has only been found in more secretive spots, correct? So it would make sense that it might be his true calling card.
Well, I think it's the calling card of a branch of their organization, because this is Meadowsweet. And I'll point to
Yes,
the
I'm
other flower on
wondering
the
if...
card. The azalea represents somebody else who connects the merchants with our purple-scaled friend and the rat folk. Pointedly, there's no Dahlia here.
Well, then that makes me wonder, is Meadowsweet even his name? Or do they all have, code names based on these flowers?
I mean, the privateer is not... What was the privateer's name again? Hold on. Brunera?
Brunera.
If I think about it, is that, they don't have Latin here, but is that, the scientific name for any of these flowers, or...
I mean, you could probably, give me another nature check, maybe.
My crit isn't gonna get it for me?
This is a new nature check.
16?
It sounds sort of familiar. And if I'm gonna say, as you think about it, you spend some time thinking about it. I will give you, since you got some awesome rolls, and also because theoretically you could go and ask the Floromancer that you live with.
I was just
Brunera
gonna say, I
is
can just ask Nettle when we get
You
home.
can ask Nettle when you get home. I will give you that. Brunera is a subspecies of forget-me-nots. So in the forget-me-not family, there's a whole bunch of other flowers that fall underneath it. Brunera is a type of forget-me-not. Specifically a blue type.
So it would seem these flowers represent all of the main players in this organization. And the sculptor must just be a temporary ally.
How very
Or
fascinating of them. I mean, it would make sense that the one that's leaving their icons popping out of demons all over town wouldn't be someone they would put on their calling card exactly.
I mean, they have been leaving these azaleas all over town.
But only in very hard to find places. I mean, it took us a bit of work to come across those ones.
Fair. So for
I mean,
now,
you're not wrong. It is sloppy of them. I mean, I do appreciate a good theme, but, you know, sometimes you need to know when the discretion is the better part of secrecy.
if you're going to have a theme, at least make it not as obvious or easily traced.
At least it makes our job easier.
So for now, see what we can learn from working for them.
Working and working.
Yes. Yeah, you see what you can gather. I'm going to attempt to leave some clues for the guard to find.
Like,
I will say
you
at
just said the
this
same
point-
word twice.
Yes, we're gonna have to teach you about inflection, Twiddlemop, and subtext. Two of my favorite things.
We'll teach you when you're older.
Side note: How
I,
old is Twid?
I was gonna say, I don't think anyone knows how old Twid is in this group.
I would agree. I don't think anyone's aware of Twid's age. And sorry, just give me 1 sec. I gotta get something for Barnaby.
How old is Thornolipite? How old are you?
I don't know. It's been a while.
So your age is, it's been a while.
I mean, I
Good to
remember
know.
something. I mean, I remember some things from a while ago, but not everything. So it's been a while.
How long have you had this version of Twiddlemop?
You mean this body that you helped me build, Calvin?
Yes.
It's been probably like what? I don't, a year?
And then the version before that you broke.
A while.
It's not
I don't-
very helpful.
I don't know how long I had that one for. I know that's the one I came here to Truehome in, but I don't remember how long it was.
Was it longer than 30 years?
Shrug.
This is getting nowhere.
We tried.
Don't think we're gonna find out more now, but Flip has pulled out his notes and is adding some notes.
I'm gonna change my secret. I know how tall Twid is. He's 5.
Too late. You've already made your secrets.
I'm joking.
Also, everyone in this party's age has to be at least the age of majority. For the obvious reasons.
So the game plan is we're gonna let Flip try and seduce Meadowsweet, and then regroup in the morning with whatever info we can find.
Are you going to try to seduce Meadowsweet tonight?
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
The demon blood
Why
adds
not?
to the sex appeal.
Flip wasn't totally, bullshitting about being all worked up. We'll go with it.
So it's like
I mean,
a little work, a little fun.
Yeah, you know, get the job done. Strike while the, iron's hot.
Hey, you might as well, if you love what you do, if you love your work, you never work a day
Exactly.
of your life. Yeah.
But I will say, like, Flip is going into this kind of with the idea of, like, okay, setting the groundwork, trying to figure out as much as I can tonight, but, like, if I need to, I can turn this into more of a long con, but preferably would just, like, bang it out tonight, so to speak.
Alright, so you're going to go back to Lord Meadowsweet.
Yeah,
alone.
correct. If there's nothing else happening at the party, if everyone is
All right.
dispersing.
Okay. So give me. Okay. So you return to Lord Meadow's suite. Ah, I see you've come back already.
I thought I'd stop by your abode tonight. I am happy to leave with you from the party, or I can just stop by in the darkness later.
I mean, I have mentioned before that I am quite the lover of fine pieces of work, and you are of particular quality.
Hair flip.
If you wouldn't mind,
I do try.
I'm sure if you give me just a few moments to make the appropriate social niceties, I could remove myself from the party and we could find ourselves in a bit more of a comfortable atmosphere.
But of course, take your time. And Flip is gonna kind of like...
Wait a moment.
Yeah, Flip is gonna like very obviously turn away and like, oh, I'm not paying attention, but is totally paying attention and trying to pick up as much information out of this whole evening as possible.
And so you see he goes over and he talks to Lady Brunera, who's discussing things with several other merchants and noblemen who are at the party, noblemen and noblewomen at the party, and like taps her shoulder, and she kind of leans down a little bit because she is a bit taller than him, and you see him sort of whisper in her ears, and she looks at you over his shoulder with like this amused expression, and she kind of quirks an eyebrow at you like, oh really? And then she, after a moment, she pats him on the shoulder and gives sort of a very like, it's okay. Privateer Brunero was so kind as to take over my social obligations and entertain the people whom we came to speak to. If you would like to follow me, perhaps I could, as I mentioned, take us to a place a bit more private, a bit more comfortable. And
Of
he
course,
holds his arm out to you.
I will hook my arm in his and say, lead the way, and give a nice sultry look up at him. I'd say with my heels on, we're probably about equal height at this point.
Okay. And so you walk out, and he continues to hold the drink that he had in his hand, the pink martini, and he takes a little sip, and then just basically walks with you out of the party.
Oh, Truehome has open carry. Okay.
You get the feeling like he's not terribly worried about whether or not they do.
The guard has other things to be worried about tonight.
He likes to live on the edge. Okay.
Within a decent amount of time, a carriage rolls up, and you realize this is probably his personal carriage. They pop open a little door for the both of you. A little stair pops down, and inside it's nice. It's tasteful but sumptuous. You will note here in particular that the pink theme does not continue. So all the upholstery is like a more plain like deep brown and green. But you do see that on the inside there's a stained glass window on both of the doors that is the same insignia with the wreath of flowers. And he pours you both like a nice little he finishes his drink and sets it aside and then pours you both like a glass of wine and hands it across to you.
I'll take it.
Unless, of course, you would like something simpler, perhaps some ale or Tildavan ale. I believe Brunera has some.
Oh, I do very much enjoy the drink of my homeland, but I am happy to have whatever you're having for the evening, and I'll take a sip of what he handed me.
And it's a very nice wine. And he takes a sip of the wine, and he goes, I'm very much looking forward to what I'll be having this evening.
Oh, I can guarantee you it will be just as enjoyable as the wine.
And we will, at that point, for this scene, we will fade to black. I would like you to give me 2 checks for me, though.
Okay.
I would like you to give me a persuasion check to basically represent how the evening goes as you're trying to wine and dine him and be charming. And then I would like you to give me follow-up investigation check as you're basically spending. Oh no, actually make an insight check as you're spending time trying to get to know things about him better.
But what about the Constitution check?
Constitution saving throw.
We don't need to know about
that.
Some of the rolls can happen off screen.
Okay, so we're gonna do. Go ahead.
Valen, as we're walking home, Thorn looks to you and says, "1 gold says we have to rescue him tonight."
Oh, I'm already planning on it.
That was all.
Okay. So we used the nice pink d20 for persuasion and got a 14.
Okay, so you got a 14 for your persuasion.
And an 18 on insight.
Oh, okay. So you have a very enjoyable evening. There are a few more drinks. There is some music. You get to see a couple of the rooms of his mansion. Some very specific rooms in his estate.
The abridged tour.
I will say that the abridged tour, he definitely gives you, as you're engaging in conversation with him, he is very knowledgeable. In particular, he talks off on a tangent several times, especially as you're walking through the manor, and he points out some of the fine items that he has. So he has several magical items on display. That seems to be the one topic he's so passionate about that even the prospect of romancing you is less appealing when he talks about it. It's like a Calvin level of energy around oh, let me show you this magical gauntlet that I have. Or this is a particularly nice magical sword that was sourced from the lands of Cochet the Deathless.
If I wasn't working, I'd be insulted.
But besides that, he is, he's charming. He's very attentive to you. You have a lovely evening. At one point, what did you get for your insight total?
Insight total was an 18. 1-8.
I will also roll something.
Could it be
It's the
deception?
Constitution saving throw.
At one point, while some of the servants are coming through, and he is basically asking them to take care of things, it seems like one of them is trying to convince him that, very quietly, be now might not be the right time for you to have company, in particular adventurer company, because you're still wearing your armor that has demon blood on it, and it's definitely one of them does not approve. As they're talking, you see Lord Meadowsweet's face gets very stony, and that sort of fun, foppish energy you've been seeing disappears, and he makes direct eye contact. And for a second, you see the servant's eyes sort of glaze over, and then just sort of stare at Lord Meadowsweet for a second and go, "Of course, whatever you would like," and then walks away.
Very sus.
But your evening passes nicely, and in the morning, he has his personal carriage return you to your home.
Excellent.
And for the rest of you, you all pass a little bit hectic but quiet evening as you return to your homes. I will say that for those of you who pass through the various streets with your passive perception and insight, you can tell that the demons, for the large part, have been cleared up at this point. There is a very clear presence of the city guard, Marge's personal guard, and several members of the Oni moving through the city. And it seems as though they're taking care of a lot of the damages and also clearing up anything that's been left over. The fires are out by the time you leave the building. The streets seem pretty much safe and secure, but the entirety of the city there's more guards on the street than you've seen in a while. People have kind of closed up shop, boarded up their windows. It definitely has the air of waiting for what's going to happen next. When will the next shoe drop?
Do I still
And
get
so
the
not
benefits of a
surprising.
long rest?
You would still get the benefits of a long rest. Not surprising to any of you, the next morning when you awake, several of the town criers are sort of out and about. The gossip network of Truehome, as it were. Several of the bulletin boards have been set up in your various neighborhoods to warn about the fact that there was a demonic incursion the night before. The city is asking if anybody with information step forward to provide details on if they know what creature or magic user may have summoned the demons for any nefarious purposes. In particular, the prince is offering a bounty on the head of the diabolus that summoned the demons. The prince is offering 400 gold pieces to anyone who could provide information that leads to his apprehension, and 2,000 gold pieces for proof of his identity and death. His or her identity or death.
I assume the party made plans to meet up in the morning. Are we meeting above at Marge's place at the stuffed dragon?
Are we meeting the next day? Yeah.
Well, I
Up to you. Any
assume.
adventuring party.
Yeah, I assumed we were meeting back up in the
Random.
morning. It was already late
Yeah,
for the
morning
party,
works.
and Flip had to go get busy.
For work.
Wherever we meet up, Valen will turn to Thorn and just be like, "Oh, I'm kind of surprised we didn't have to save Flip last night." When they see Flip.
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't take that back.
Well, unfortunately, I didn't learn too much yet, so you never know. There could be another night. I need you.
And I will say that if it's helpful to all of you, you know that Marge's younger son owns and runs a tavern / restaurant / inn, the King's Rest.
Perhaps we meet there so that way it's not as obvious that we're going to Marge's.
Well, are we going back to
Yeah,
Marge's? I think she kind of gave us the rundown that hey, do a job or two for the regalia and see if you figure anything out.
Oh, that is true. She did kind of give us our orders and sent us off.
I do want to try to meet at her younger son's restaurant if we're looking for a place to meet up, because then I can pass them a message.
I mean, I assume
I think
meet there for breakfast. Sounds great.
I will say you have adventured together in the past. You probably have places you've gone before, and that would just be one of the suggestions I have.
Yeah, that seems right. Because like we said, we don't want to be always showing up at Marge's main headquarters. So that seems like a good meetup spot. Head there for breakfast.
What's her younger son's name? Antonio?
Antonio is her younger son. Antiliot's the younger, Antonio's the Antiliot's the older, Antonio's the younger.
When we get to the restaurant, is Antonio there?
Yeah, Antonio's there. I will say that most of you have met Antonio. While Antiliot's been out a lot on business, Antonio is the younger, is often around, so you probably bumped into him a few times. In particular, what would seem unusual for most, but you would know by now, is Antonio is human. He would guess his age at probably around 21, 22 years old. Human, about pretty tall, anyways. Still about 6'2". Sandy brown hair that is sort of just left to go kind of bedhead wild on the top, but is cut fairly short. A thick beard that comes down to about here. That definitely has the look in a few places of he hasn't yet perfected growing a thick beard. Decently muscular, wearing a simple vest actually over simple little brown leather vest over a red tunic and a pair of leather trews. and you can see that he's behind the bar, and that he's actually seems to be serving out drinks to people who are in for like probably like the morning shift. The people who got off of the late night, like the various guards and stuff like that in the area, have stopped in for a drink at the end of their shift, and that they're also serving breakfast at this point.
Hi, Antonio.
Twid, what you doing here?
I thought I was supposed to meet people here.
Oh,
We're all
are
here.
you here to? You're here meeting what's the Thorn and stuff, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'll have Sheila show you back.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And I will say that those of you who know Antonio know that he is Marge's son with her third husband, who is human. I'm sorry, no, second husband who is human. And as a result,
The one who
he is human.
gave her the coat.
The one that gave... No, the first husband gave her the cup. Her second husband was human, was from Truehome, and as a result, their child was born human. You would know that Antonio is currently, especially Twid would know this, Antonio is currently dealing with the decision of whether or not he wants to remain human, or if he will take the pledge that will transform him into a full Valanin. Since he was not born to Valanin parents, it's up to him to make the decision, to two Valanin parents, up to him to make the decision if he wants to become a Valanin. And travel to take the pledge before the Polar Bear King, Valamon, who rules over the Valanin. Valamon the White Mantle.
Because what LGBTQ D&D game doesn't have bears?
Bears
How dare
and
you, but
otters.
also accurate.
You got them all.
I was gonna say, I've checked off both boxes. Thank you. My world canonically has bear people and has otters. And the bear people are a chosen family. You choose to join the Valanin.
That's right.
Symbolism.
And then there's the
But
queer
But yeah,
also
you know that Antonio has not yet made the decision about whether or not he wants to be a Valanin.
So,
When Thorn gets... Go ahead.
so when we're all sitting there, I assume, and Twitch shows up last, because that sounds fitting. We don't know anything really, do we? Flip, nothing?
Yeah, I'll give a censored debrief of the evening and just, I seem to be just laying the groundwork. Unfortunately, it seems I'll have to keep working at it if we want more information. Hey,
The
keep
fact
this
that he
honeypot going.
The fact that he used some variety of mind magic is worth noting.
Oh yeah, I would definitely include that weird little bit, and just I've definitely lost any high opinion I had of him. I don't care for people who force their will on others, and I think that's what I witnessed.
Be careful, Flip.
So, second plan, plan B, plan 2? The next plan? I assume we take a job. He said he had some place that we could explore down in the floodplains, right?
Yeah, take some jobs with them, see what we can gain, hide anything that would be particularly useful.
And then while we're
It
in
might
the...
be worth. I was just gonna say it might be worth going through his associate, the brigadier, for the jobs. Just since I already have our bases covered with Meadow Suite, it might behoove us to get multiple perspectives on their organization.
And I think they said the jobs were down the floodplains, so while we're down there, we can try and find some leads for our weird purple people eater.
Yeah, we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Valen, I'm assuming we arrived together. I'd say you'll notice that when we got there, I probably pulled Antonio aside and handed him a note to pass on to Marge, detailing the details of the crest and the fact that the flowers all are people and the azalea is there, but not the dahlia. Because I don't want to. If we're going to be doing this, I don't want to be seen going to Marge too much.
That's smart. That's smart. We'll get her. We'll get her word through other means.
So you all enjoy a lovely meal at Antonio's at the King's Rest, which does indeed out front have a depiction of a large polar bear sort of nestled into a little bed, like sleeping with a little crown on its head, that to represent King Valamon. You enjoy a delightful breakfast full of many, warm and delicious foods, in particular some of the finest cuts of meat, which, come from the stuffed dragon's larder, his brother's business establishment. A very legitimate business establishment, by the way. The Orobasso family is a family business.
That meat is amazing. That meat is spiced
particularly
perfectly.
Good. You are given like a private dining area to eat at because you are, you're in the know. Antonio takes your note and promises that he will deliver it to his mother for you. He'll do so discreetly. He knows how important it is to, make sure your business is discreet.
Thank you. It seems we may be doing a little bit of undercover work, partial cover work. I don't know how many covers there are.
I mean,
3/4 cover
gotta
work.
keep things a little interesting.
3/4 cover right now.
Also, y'all will probably know, you've known Thorn for about 3 years. This is on one of maybe 4 occasions you've seen them eat food. You know they do eat food, but you've never seen them eat, like, not Asha high food.
At that, I will actually ask Thorn, do you want Asha high food? Or do you just eat whatever's available?
Today, after that long battle, Thorn is not being picky. They're saving their rations for being in the field.
Okay.
Or
I was
when
gonna say,
they want
because he does offer that.
Oh, I mean, if he has it, I'll take it.
Yeah, so he actually does provide you with an Ashahai, a traditional like morning Ashahai meal.
Probably unpleasant to look at.
It's like a breakfast hot pot essentially.
Oh, okay. I'm here for it.
Yeah. So it's got potato. It's
So
like
that
it's like
kind of
a
Asha
it's like a
food
breakfast.
hurt.
Yeah.
Well, that
Not
looks
like freeze dried, but
interesting.
also raw meat gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. A little bit. There's a little this side of frozen enough to not be sushi.
I mean, y'all have seen Thorn's trail rations before, and they're just little cubes of something red. It's blood.
Yeah.
And we call Twid the creepy one.
Hey, the
I don't use
Ashahai like
fire.
to be prepared. Yeah, so the Ashahai trail rations are like a blood pudding that's partially frozen so that it maintains it's basically blood jello. And that's the fun fact
a
that we're going to
bloodsicle.
leave you with tonight. Because on that note, I believe we're going to say that thank you so much for joining us tonight for just a little bit, episode 7, The Ides of Marge. Definitely join us next week if you can at 7:30 Eastern Time again as our adventurers once more delve into the strange and magical world of Obra as we continue to look for the source of the missing people, the demonic creatures that have plagued Truehome, and also most likely there's going to be something to do with some portals somewhere. I don't know. I don't ask no questions. So thank you so much for joining us. As I mentioned before, if you did have fun, definitely give us a follow. Otherwise, we'll see you again later.
Hi.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.